You know that housing unaffordability is pretty bad when this is the marketing that you're getting.
Just because they call it a luxury apartment does not mean it's actually luxury.
Part of me is a little nervous to be in this house right now, to be quite honest with you.
So today we're going to be talking about the housing crisis, all while luxury apartments, McMansions, townhomes, you name it, are popping up left and right. Now we have construction happening all over the country, all over the world as well, while most people can't afford these places. We're going to be looking at why this is happening, the types of housing being built in 2025, and clips from normal everyday people showing what they see as well. We also have some comments from you guys from previous videos, so if you want to be featured on a future video, leave it in the comments down below. But let's just start off with this.
So the solution to the problem of unaffordable housing seems so simple, right? Despite all of this new development, we are still short about 4 million homes by most estimates. And if developers can't sell the luxury homes they have already built, it's much less likely we will build the other homes we actually need.
I don't know about you, but I haven't seen any new construction be affordable at all anymore. So even if the developers sell all the new luxury homes that they're currently making, they would just go and make more of the same type of housing. Like he said, margins are better. Why would they go back and make more affordable homes? It's actually getting so bad that this is the marketing that people are seeing with new builds now.
You know that housing unaffordability is pretty bad when this is the marketing that you're getting. I just got this email. It is all about this builder's next gen plan. Let's look at the plan, right? You have a standard house. Here's where the whole family gathers. And then this right here, this is the next gen bedroom, the kitchenette, the next gen living room, their own garage. In the email, it's like, this is for your adult children who can't afford rent, who are coming back from school. Here's where they can live for their own privacy. What was once an in-law suite, right? Because this is nothing new. This is just like the mother-in-law suite. What was once built for your aging parents who couldn't take care of themselves anymore or needed some extra help or whatever is now being marketed as your kids can't afford to live anywhere, so let's just let them live with you. And here's their privacy, which honestly, great idea because a lot of people are in this situation. And this is not a commentary on multifamily housing. I'm not saying anything about that. I understand the benefits. I understand that many cultures do it. I'm just saying it is wild that we have gone from selling these types of homes as in-law suites to next-gen homes for your children who cannot afford to live on their own.
Now, one thing that he doesn't talk about with these types of homes is that now the developers, the builders are going to command even more of a premium because multiple generations are supposed to live in this house. It's going to be a huge building. Tons of people could live here, so that means a lot of income from various jobs. So if you think any of the housing is expensive now, it would get even worse with this. Either way, not a good look at all. They know how bad the housing problem is with these prices, and it only really seems to be getting worse.
The most recent construction boom was fueled by a lot of things. New construction had recovered after the 2008 crash, and people were once again interested in living in apartments. According to a report by the Harris Poll, dual income no kids or DINK households have become the fastest group of homebuyers in America. Both people working makes low maintenance apartments ideal, and the lack of kids means there is less need for extra space that typically comes with a single family freestanding home. DINK households also have more spending power on average, so accommodating them with new property developments became very profitable. Young cashed-up renters or buyers were more likely to pay a premium for expensive-looking fittings, fixtures, materials, designs, and amenities in their apartment. Builders loved this, because a faux marble waterfall countertop and a few treadmills tucked into a corner room somewhere were very cheap to include in a build, but properties could then be sold at a much higher markup than typical budget-friendly housing, even if the apartments themselves were exactly the same size.
So this is happening with both single-family housing and apartments like this. So the extra money that the dinks are making is slowly being eroded away because the developers know that they have more expendable income. So this turns into a luxury apartment with all the faux marble, the modern finishes, everybody knows about them, made with the cheapest materials, and maybe there's a community pool to add on to the amenities. But now get ready to pay $2,500 or $3,000 for this, which also prices out many people as well. On top of this, the developers know that their bills are the absolute worst. So this is the kind of stuff that they slip into contracts to hide their shoddy work.
Inspectors are not permitted to access the roof, and inspectors are not permitted to access or walk the attic or crawl spaces of the home. Visual inspection from scuttle holes only.
Well, I'm going to chime in too, because these stipulations these builders put on us get really annoying. I am currently doing a Phase 3 new construction inspection for Meritage Homes. Meritage, and then I had one a couple days ago, Megatel. They're one of the common ones in my area that don't let us walk the roof or open electrical panels or touch thermostats or whatever. And I really wish I could walk the roof so I could check out stuff like that. See the wind pushing up the shingles? Wonder why they don't want us up there.
Could you imagine all of these brand new homes have terrible roofs to begin with? And they're trying to tell the inspectors that you're not allowed to look at the roofs, to look into the attic or the crawl space, because they know they're breaking the rules. So let's say you are going to buy a home and hire your own inspector. They still might not be able to see everything that's wrong with the house. I mean, they weren't allowed to touch the thermostat. That's insane. Here's some of the comments. How could a home builder not allow access to inspection that a home buyer has paid for? The creator responded, contracts they make us sign. If we break the contract, they refuse to read the report we wrote for the home buyer. How is this legal? And now these same companies are building entire communities, apartment buildings all over the place.
Immediately following global lockdowns, starting new construction was very difficult. But quickly, a few extra factors made apartments a hot commodity. People took remote work opportunities to move to different cities at a record rate. Add in stimulus, low interest rates, booming asset markets, and young adults who didn't feel like being stuck inside with their parents 24 hours a day, and it was the perfect storm for developers to make some money. New luxury apartment buildings sprung up across the country, often accompanied by flashy marketing campaigns to attract renters and buyers. The biggest factor of all, though, was that the developers didn't need to hold on to these buildings. Once constructed and rented out, the whole building could be packaged up and sold to a financial institution that would put them into a residential real estate investment trust, which would then be sold onto other investors who wanted exposure to a broad portfolio of real estate without actually having to manage the real estate directly. These REITs are not new, but they have grown in popularity, especially for residential real estate. This worked well to encourage building.
So this goes well with a comment from one of you guys. Results of workers that get pushed to finish faster and faster, cheaper and cheaper, with ever worsening materials and the possible lack of pride too. They're pumping these out as fast as possible because it turns into an investment. So now this is happening all over the place, spreading throughout the country and the world because of the rise in popularity with remote work during COVID. You could be in the middle of nowhere and just work on your laptop. So more housing developments started to be built in different areas, then raising the price in those same areas. One of the biggest examples I think of all the time is Austin. Just in the past 5 or so years, how unbelievably expensive it's gotten. Many people also moved to Florida during that time and jacked up the real estate prices in general, and it's just recently starting to come back down to earth. But again, this has priced out many people in the process, especially when you see clips like this. Apartments expect you to make 3 times the rent, but the front office workers that live there don't even make that. So not only do you have to pay $2,000 to $3,000 a month for rent, you then have to make almost $10,000 a month to even be allowed in this area. It's just ridiculous.
For the builders and lenders, once heads were in beds, they didn't really care what happened to the building because it wasn't their asset anymore. Unsurprisingly, a lot of this new luxury housing turned out to be not so luxurious after all, and that was really the least of its problems. Millions of jobs, from architects to plumbers, rely on building these homes. Financial institutions have invested heavily into them, and even beyond the finances, this is all very dependent on these buildings not falling apart within the next 20 years. So clearly, a lot of this luxury housing is not actually luxury housing. It's just expensive housing with a bit of a marketing budget. Those aren't always the same thing. Extremely large but poorly designed and cheaply built homes are not a new feature in most suburbs around the world, especially here in America. McMansions, as they are affectionately known, appeal to a market of buyers who don't have an endless budget but still want a house with a 4-car garage, a billiards room, 2 guest bedrooms, and an extra formal living room that never gets used.
This kind of stuff we already knew about from previous videos. It's just marketing and a way to get tenants to pay more rent or for you to pay over asking price for a single family home, but it's not actually luxurious at the end of the day. Another reason that I started to see with the Section 8 video that I made previously is that these places are being marked as luxury apartments, so they're able to avoid having Section 8 tenants. If you want, you could go check out that video, but these are all contributing factors with what we're dealing with today.
The solution was houses with a lot of square footage, but very low cost per square foot. This normally means sacrifices are made in materials, insulation, and build quality. Long term, that makes these homes very expensive to maintain, but the upfront cost for the space you are getting is almost unbeatable. Or at least, it was unbeatable until supply chain disruptions made building materials extremely expensive. No matter how many corners are cut, bigger homes are just going to take more materials. According to the National Association of Home Builders, the average price of a new home in 2024 was $428,000, which means in most areas it's simply not financially viable to build a new home, since an established house plus the land it's sitting on could be purchased for just as much. That has meant that the new wave of luxury housing development has mostly been in the form of apartment buildings, which have effectively just become McMansions in the sky. At the extreme high end, there are developments like 432 Park Avenue, 157, the Shore Club, and Central Park Tower.
Now, what I would normally say is that the ultra luxury apartments are not the same as the apartments being built all over cities now, that they're way better quality material because they're being sold for millions of dollars. But as we'll see a little bit later, that's not the case. However, the other apartments want to mimic them, making you think that you'll have the same type of lifestyle, which of course you won't, but you'll be paying top dollar to think so. But going back to the McMansions and the terrible material for the square footage, I think this clip is a perfect example of that.
And we had some crazy storms in DFW last night. Look at that, porta potties falling over. Good thing I don't have to use the bathroom. Oh, also houses falling over. Look at that. Goodness. And another one. And another one. And one more. Yeah, what's funny, but also not funny, is how many people comment, just one good strong wind and the house is falling over. Yep. Part of me is a little nervous to be in this house right now, to be quite honest with you.
I probably would be too. Some of the comments here, I know a DR Horton house when I see one. Houses made of twigs and paper selling for $1 million. Gotta be another DR Horton home. We have another comment from one of you guys. Currently suing the Home Realty LLC company that sold us our house. Discovered electrical fire hazards, mold covered up, wrong AC, ductwork, structural issues as well. We have over 400 pictures and 6 hours of video proof. Been going on 3 years. All of this seems like a nightmare to me.
There's the largest group of these new developments, which are pretty much just investor stock apartments with nice sounding names like the Concord or the Bayview. These are primarily mid-rise or 5/1 style developments, made to a budget for the express intention of being a financial asset with the added side effect of giving some people a place to live. Thanks to a change in building codes around fireproof construction following the 2008 crash, 5/1 developments became much easier to build. This bottom floor is typically dedicated to retail spaces, and then atop that, there are 4 to 5 stories of wood frame construction for apartments. These buildings per square meter are some of the cheapest structures to build, and have become the most profitable to develop because they were possible to sell or rent at a significant markup over their building costs, and then they made the perfect risk-reward asset to put in the portfolio of institutions that have purchased thousands of these multifamily dwellings.
And I think everybody has seen that in their area, in their town or city that they live in. I definitely see it around where I live. And it also doesn't make me feel safe when I hear everyone saying that this is the worst, cheapest materials for the best margin. And then we had the previous clip of the houses collapsing because of a storm. Doesn't really want to make me live in them or shop in them either. But at the end of the day, they are just an investment for people, and the value's only going to go up, I guess.
The first problem is that the people constructing the buildings are a long way removed from the people who will eventually own them. A developer will normally subcontract a builder who will subcontract tradesmen who will actually do the construction. The developer will either then sell the building to individual apartment owners Or more likely, they will sell it to a firm that aggregates these buildings before selling them as a portfolio to an investment fund, which will further bundle them up to sell them as a residential real estate investment fund, which will be sold to retirement funds, which will be sold to you. That is assuming you have retirement savings. Now, the financialization of the real estate market never hurt anybody before, right? But it does mean that building standards have consistently been lacking because all of the groups involved just want to build to a set budget before passing the hot potato of responsibility along to the next person. This has happened across all of these tiers of luxury housing. Even ultra-luxury developments like the Trash Can Tower at 432 Park Avenue are riddled with structural issues leading to lengthy lawsuits just to figure out who is ultimately responsible for fixing the problems.
So going back to the ultra luxury apartments and them supposedly having better quality because people are buying their condos for millions of dollars a pop, I guess I'm wrong about that. They still have the same problems even if you're paying that much money. Same thing with single family homes. If you're paying almost $1 million, this is what you're gonna get.
This is one of those houses, man. New construction. Here's a water heater. Here's our pressure relief valve. Where's the drain? I mean, obviously that, but there's supposed to be a drain that comes out of the wall, but they forgot to plumb it. So it's just leaking in the wall space. And they never fully fastened the gutters over here. This just looks like garbage, all of it. I don't know what they were thinking with all this. Bunch of ripped shingles. These are loose. Well, I never thought I would see this. So that last video showing the wet spot on the master ceiling, there's an attic space above, so I came up here to try to figure out where's the water coming from. And next to this return air is where that wet spot was. So I dug out the insulation and found this. And it is wet.
Some of the comments, the beer bottle is wild on so many levels. This should result in criminal charges. The quality of new construction now is horrible. And we have a comment from one of you guys. Houses being seen as investments rather than homes cause this. Homes used to be built to be lived in for a lifetime. Now they're just built for equity and to be flipped in a few years. That's exactly what's happening.
Now, obviously, in a building where the average apartment sold for more than $10 million, the residents will have the time and resources to take a property developer to court. But a lot of other less high-profile property buyers don't have that luxury if their hastily constructed home falls apart. The second problem with these new developments is something that affects you even if you never buy, build, or invest in these properties. Higher density housing needs higher density services to deal with traffic, waste management, schools, and emergency services. These have to be supplied by the municipality, not the developer. And property dues on these units are normally much lower than freestanding single-family homes. To be clear, mid to high density housing is much more fiscally manageable than suburban sprawls, which requires proportionally more roads and connecting services. But the boom in new apartments are still a significant short-term expense that has to be accounted for even if they are cheaper in the long term. But then there's the biggest problem of all with this new luxury living space. Nobody wants to live in it.
And now many people know how bad they're being built because of the experiences people share on social media. They know the developers are just trying to screw you and they're going to the next building to make more money. So why would you pay $2,000 or $3,000 a month or outright buy it and then you have to spend all the money just to maintain it as it falls apart?
Because of the luxury branding, many of these new units are more expensive than homes that are much larger. This is especially the case for larger apartments with enough bedrooms for families with children. A 4-bedroom home is a pretty typical staple of most American suburbs. A 4-bedroom apartment is a penthouse that commands an ultra-luxury premium. If you enjoy a good doom scroll on Zillow, try and find a 4-bedroom apartment in your city or town that costs less than the average 4-bedroom home. As new buildings are finished, they are further saturating a market that has done too much too quickly. In certain cities, developers are now offering multiple months of free rent, or concessions like holidays or jewelry for people who sign year-long leases in their new buildings.
We have also seen this before, giving incentives. Feels like the biggest red flag for me though. If this was supposed to be so nice and fancy, you know, everybody wanted to live here, why are you bribing me to sign a contract for a year? It seems like it's finally starting to backfire until you see this.
Now, you have probably already asked the logical question, which is that If nobody is renting these places unless they are given freebies, why don't they just make the rent cheaper instead? Well, they can't. Yes, according to some rigorous calculations, $2,000 a month in rent for a year with 3 months free is the same as just charging $1,500 a month. But the number crunchers don't see it this way. Most of these buildings will be sold based on a multiple of how much income they are generating, something known as the capitalization rate, or cap rate. In non-financial jargon, this is what percent of the purchase price a building returns in income every year. So a $10 million building returning $500,000 a year in income would have a cap rate of 5%. Or, put another way, if investors are willing to accept a 5% cap rate, which is generally where the market has been heading, then a building returning $500,000 a year is worth $10 million. But if those apartments are rented out at a higher base rate and are returning $600,000 a year, then the building is worth an extra $2 million.
So at the end of the day, it comes down to the ROI for the investors, which is really sad. This problem only seems to be getting worse, but some people are falling for these marketing tactics for these luxury housing units. But we're going to end off this video with this clip.
Just because they call it a luxury apartment does not mean it's actually luxury. They just slapping that word on any and everything. And I know, I've talked about it before, but I gotta reiterate for the people in the back. They are making these apartments to look good from the outside, but from the inside, it's made up of pencil sticks and duct tape, held together with a bunch of zip ties. And then they'll throw a tennis court, a pool, and some beach chairs out front and call it luxury. Like putting a seafood boil in front of a pile of shit. And then they'll try to sell you on the amenities first. Oh yeah, we got a nice pool, a nice gym, a nice sauna, while the apartment is basic as hell, below average. So now I'm a little curious. I'm like, why are all these apartment complexes being built so cheaply and be able to be called a luxury apartment? So now I'm in another rabbit hole, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning watching documentaries on YouTube. And long story short, because there's a lot that goes into it, the main thing is profit maximization. Just like every damn thing. I'm just saying, don't let them sell you that flimsy ass apartment just because it's got a pool and a dog park. Do your due diligence. It could be a very expensive mistake.
So I would like to say that there's an ending in sight, but people have been talking about this for years now and nothing's really changing. Maybe some areas, like I talked about earlier, Florida, the prices are starting to come back down because they were so unbelievably inflated, but other areas are still going strong and increasing prices. So that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on screen right now, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and I'll talk to you guys later.